There is talent on this team. On the defensive side, for sure, they have some offensive weapons. They're banged up on that side of the ball. This offseason, coaching search, what do you think happens here, Adam?
Well, a big offseason for the New Orleans Saints, who were eliminated in the playoffs from the playoffs yesterday, Scott. And they're going to heat up their coaching search towards the end of this season. One of the candidates expected to be square on their radar will be the Lions defensive coordinator, Aaron Glenn, who's coached in New Orleans, has a history with the franchise. The organization knows him well. I also would expect that the organization would have some level of interest in the former Tennessee Titans head coach Mike Vrabel, and of course, there will be other names. And whoever takes over as the coach in New Orleans will have a major quarterback question. But right now, because this team is so strapped against the cap, Derek Carr is in line to be back next year. They don't have a lot of flexibility. He makes the most sense, and it certainly looks like he could be back next season, even though he is inactive tonight, and Spencer Rattler will be starting at quarterback for him. And, of course, there are the questions for this season with Alvin Kamara, who is also inactive tonight, and there still is a chance he could come back later this season. He's about 50 yards shy of his first 1,000-yard season, and even though they have been eliminated, he would like to come back and play, and this team is all in on this game tonight. Just this weekend, the quarterbacks coach had the quarterbacks in a freezer in the team's cafeteria, taking snaps, going through play calls, treating the elements like they would be encountering tonight. So this team is already gearing up for this big night in Green Bay, but it is also a huge offseason ahead for the Saints.
Adam, thank you very much. Sitting up here with a couple of proud sons of Louisiana, Ryan Clark and Marcus Spears. Ryan, this is a really passionate and really smart fan base. They know good football. Everybody thinks about, the costumes and this. That's just New Orleans, man. Yeah. But this is a fan base that has been incredibly loyal and supportive. What has to happen here? What direction ought they go?
The first thing that has to happen is, down the stretch, these last 2 games, you have to figure out if Spencer Rattler is the answer at quarterback. Because I believe as you move forward with the head coach, you need to move forward at that position as well. And whether or not he can play the position well enough to be your franchise guy, that's going to dictate what you do in the offseason.
Okay.
And then now, when you go find a coach, whether you go search for Aaron Glenn, whether it's Ben Johnson, you need a leader of men. Yeah. It's not just enough to be able to understand the X's and O's. It's enough to get what Sean Payton and Drew Brees got when they stepped into the building in New Orleans, that we need to change the culture of this football team, and that culture needs to match its people.
Yeah,
still recovering from the departure of Sean Payton.
For sure. But
Go ahead, JK.
No, and I will say these turnarounds can happen quick now in the NFL.
In this division in particular.
Exactly. I mean, you look at even in the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh, you look at Washington. There's turnover can happen quick. The rebuilding era in the NFL is kind of, far-fetched. If you bring in a guy in that establishes a culture, they can turn this around very fast.
But it would be easy is not the right word. I think there would be less hills to climb in that division than if you're in this division with Green Bay, Minnesota.
Look at where Atlanta is this year.
But we have a blueprint. You got to get the coach and the quarterback right.
Yep.
Like we got our examples in Houston, our examples in Washington, what's happening right now.
Yep.
Our example in Denver right now. Like we know what the template is. Yep. I don't give a damn about an offensive line, defensive line. You got to get that coach, and you got to figure out who's going to be your quarterback, and you build out of that. And I think if New Orleans is looking at the trend of the league, they're going to make a good decision on that. Now, that could be Aaron Glenn. It could be a DeMeco Ryans situation with a really good offensive
But Swag, how about this, though? The other thing is, when you look at the drafts, you're talking about those teams. Right. When you get the Jaden Daniels and the Bo Nixon, you got those guys in the draft.
Absolutely.
It doesn't seem that the 2025 draft will have those sorts of deep quarterbacks.
It doesn't, and as Adam alluded to, the cap situation is pretty crippling there. Final word here, and then we're going to move on.
But you do have Jim Harbaugh inheriting Herbert, and they've been able to turn it around very quickly, even though former first round.
And Derek Carr is serviceable until you find yourself in that position.